North Alabama School for Organizers presents Fireside Chats, intersectional education through interviews with the organizations and people making real change right now. Listen, learn, and organize with Nassau and Fireside Chats.
And I talked to dozens of people from ages 16 to 83 years old, asking if you could change policing. One thing, if you could change one thing, what would you change? And we compiled this list of responses from people and came up with a list of 10 requests for our local government. So we've been going to city council every other Thursday since June 11th, sharing facts, providing insight, data, making requests, calling out local officials about their need to start the process of transforming policing.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Angela. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm so glad that you could join us. This is certainly a treat, to have you on. We're honored to have you on. You're a giant within our community. We really appreciate you.
I am honored to be here.
I tell you, we get everybody together, we can be dangerous, can't we?
That's right. That's right.
That's what we want to be. And Courtney is going to be the co-host with me tonight. Thanks, Courtney.
You're welcome. Hi.
Most people know Courtney. Courtney's also the secretary of Nassau. She is also creator and director of Alabama Solutions. She is also pretty much in charge of Blues to Bluegrass now. She and her fiance, Morgan, and they are going to be married shortly. And congratulate them.
Yeah. Thank you.
And just terrific people. What I'd kind of like to do, since I don't know, Angela, if you know everybody here.
I think so. Maybe not Damien and Donald, but I think I know everybody else. I don't know.
Okay, Damien and Donald, can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Hey, I'm Damien. I'm a grad student in industrial engineering, and I work with the IWW here in Huntsville, and I've been, involved with Nassau and the Homeless Construction Coalition, stuff like that, just over the past few years. So.
My first community volunteer participation was a homeless count on third shift, because I don't know if it was First Stop or another group. They needed to count the number of homeless people in Huntsville, and that was back in 1999. And so I was working and going to school, and I had kids and all that. So third shift was the only shift I could volunteer and actually was available. So that was an interesting experience.
All right. Yes. And I also want to say that Damien is also on our finance team, in which he will be raising funds for us through grants, hopefully.
Good deal.
Donald.
All right. Hey, so yeah, my name is Donald, and I used to live out in Alabama. So that's where I got mixed up with this ragtag bunch. And so yeah, I had recently last year moved back home to New Mexico. So that's where I'm at now. But I got involved. I met Hi through, I think it was a DSA meeting or something he showed up to. We started doing the Homeless Construction Coalition work. And then we started talking about Nassau a little bit there, along with a couple of other folks. I think Courtney was one, and then who was
Candy Ballinger.
yeah, Candy was the other one. Yeah, there was that moment there where like the Highlander instituted that awful problem where Nazis were trying to light it on fire and all those things, and so they were on a short hiatus, and so we thought we could jump in and try and fill a gap on some political education and helping teach people how to organize, because we'd seen that as an issue that was running up in Huntsville, where it's like we could get people to show up somewhere and then we couldn't get them to do anything once they showed up. So the idea of building some classes after that seemed like a good thing to be a part of. So yeah, I do a lot of just general work out here. I think I was talking a little bit before I got on. Now that I'm out here in New Mexico, I'm working with some organizations on community gardens, on mutual aid projects, on all of those types of things. So yeah, we're excited to be here. Excited to hear all about what you've got going on.
And Jean, I don't think you know Angela, and Angela don't think you know
Oh.
Jean.
And I'm late getting here, so sorry about that. Just now got home. I'm flying in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of catching up on what's going on. You haven't started yet?
No, just
Introductions?
introduction.
Okay. And is Angela here?
Yes.
And Angelina? Angela?
Can you see me?
Yes. Is it Angela or Angelina?
Angela.
Angela?
Uh-huh.
Yes, I'm Jean Spitzer. Had a career as kind of a librarian and also as an attorney for a while. But I teach adjunct at Tennessee Tech history, American history, the second half. Yeah. And I'm glad to be here. I was looking forward to seeing this, and I was afraid I was going to miss it, but I made it.
You are right on time.
Right on time.
Now,
Thanks.
Jean is also one of our instructors for Nassau.
Oh,
So she
okay.
does teach classes here. And she just got through with one on US imperialism, which was
Yeah.
an excellent
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. It was fun.
Okay. We can get started. Well, we're so glad you're here. Would you mind, Angela, just telling us a little bit about you? You did a little bit a while ago, but where you're from and that we'd appreciate it.
So I am originally from Syracuse, New York. So I stayed, and then when I was 12, we moved to Jacksonville, Florida. I ended up in Alabama after high school to attend college at Alabama A&M. I ran track in high school, and I saw Alabama A&M's women's track team at an invitational at Florida State University, and they were kicking all of the D1 schools, but like they were owning it. So I was just mesmerized by this group of Black women who they were dominating the field, and I was like, I want to go to that school. So I ended up coming to Alabama, not realizing that it was also the place where Bull Connor and all that, Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King. I didn't make the connection at the time, but once I got here, I was in a culture shock a little bit because things were kind of backwards in 90 compared to the places I had lived. And so, but during that time, I also ended up having kids and getting married, and I graduated 10 years later from UAH. But there was a professor there, Dr. Andrea Reeves. I was a non-traditional student when I went back to school, so I was just trying to cram everything in and get done with it. And so you have to take those GRE classes. So I had the choice of psychology or political science. Well, I didn't want to do either one of them, but because I was going to teach high school mathematics. So that had anything to do with what I would. But we had to choose something. I didn't want to do psychology, so I picked political science. Her teaching sparked a flame in me that I didn't even know that existed. And I just fell in love with the material. And I ended up eventually changing my major, and I got my bachelor's in political science with a philosophy minor. So law school should have been somewhere in there, and it was considered at some point, but it didn't work out. I've been taught by my father that whenever you see anything that is not right, that you're supposed to speak up. And so that's been kind of instilled in me from a child. And so I've been finding my voice as I continue to age. And so I started the United Women of Color in 2018, inspired by some older women who were inspired by Maxine Waters after Doug Jones won the special election. But that original group kind of fell apart. And I had to decide, like, was I going to continue on with this passion that was within me, or was I just gonna like join another group and be unfulfilled? So there was several of us that worked like 3 or 4 months on fleshing out what we wanted United Women of Color to be. Started that organization, like I said, in 2018. We chose July 19th because it's the anniversary of the Women's Rights Convention of 1848 in Seneca Falls, New York. The complexities of that convention are still kind of relevant today when it comes to feminism and racism and class and things of that nature. So we felt like that date was significant, and we wanted to align with that. But we also plan to solve that problem if there is such a thing, if that could be done. So United Women of Color is about empowering women, girls, and their families. Anyone who believes in the mission of United Women of Color is open to join. It's not just a Black organization. It's not just a women's organization. We will be 3 years old July 19th. It seems like it's been longer than that. But last year when George Floyd was murdered, I was too angry to go to the protests, and I knew that the protests were peaceful. But I felt like I had to do something. So I began to talk to some of the grassroots leaders here, kind of fleshing out an idea that I had. I talked to dozens of people from ages 18 to the age of, no, it was 16 to 83 years old, asking if you could change policing, one thing, if you could change one thing, what would you change? And we compiled this list of responses from people and came up with a list of 10 requests for our local government, because we knew that our local government was not, they had never actively stated that there needed to be any police reform. So we came up with some objective asks that we had retired policemen to look over, attorneys, just looking at the objective and ease to which these items should have been able to been implemented, presented them at a press conference, presented them at City Hall. What was significant was that also we had the tear gas and rubber bullets at the protest. So a lot of those individuals fell into this, the Citizens Coalition. So that was kind of I couldn't have planned it better. It was an organic thing that happened, that there was a blessing, I guess you could say, in disguise. So we've been going to City Council every other Thursday since June 11th, sharing facts, providing insight, data, making requests, calling out local officials about their need to start the process of transforming policing. So I guess that tells you a little bit about me. I'm a mother and a grandmother, and I'm also a technical writer for an aerospace company here in town.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of the protest, I was there and I got my fair share of abuse with tear gas and rubber bullets flying around me, and grenades, everything they were throwing out there, smoke bombs. And just to cut it short, I was saved by somebody in media who grabbed me, and they had face masks, had the gas mask, and they were just hitting everybody, and they were just running over, because they threw me down. The cops threw me down on the ground and stepped on me and said, "Get out of the way, you MF." And then they took me over to a medic area, and they were treating me there, and the cops came over and destroyed the medic area. So it was horrible. It was really horrible. And this police department, this I don't know, this police chief and Tommy Gun Tommy, they just didn't care. But yeah, I'm backing you up on that because it was terrible.
It's
Yeah.
evident that several leaders are devoid of humanity as it relates to just human decency and the actual service part of the protect and serve. There's
Yeah.
not a belief in that.
Yeah, and the closest thing I've ever seen was in the 60s, 68, when I was at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, and there was a police riot. And that's the closest I've seen, that these cops were doing downtown here in Huntsville. But anyway, Courtney, do you have some questions that you would like to ask?
Yes. So I've got a couple that she might have already answered though.
Okay,
I'm
I'm sure she'll embellish on it, so that's okay.
Well, first of all, Angela, thank you so much for coming on and doing all the courageous things you do and being consistent in your courage. And I really appreciate you being here tonight and inspiring us all. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I'm honored. Anytime I get to talk about this, I'm humbled and I'm honored, and I'm just glad somebody wants to hear about it. So thank you guys for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was your most impactful moment while serving the community?
And I want to say the homeless count, because I grew up in a middle class family, went to Catholic school. So like my parents were able to pay for private school. I never went to bed hungry. So to go out and hear the stories of the individuals while we were out counting during third shift, I hope to never forget that experience. But it also clarified for me that I will always be involved in community service, because everybody has a story and it's not the story that you think it is. And so the only way for you to know the authentic story is to get out and interact with people. And to me, the best way to interact with people is through community service, because you're doing something for a cause.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel you on that. I've been not homeless, not ever homeless really, but more apartments, single mom, so I have really nothing to complain about in comparison to what I've seen. And I feel you on that, because I felt the same way, to take advantage of a bathroom, 4 walls and a door, it's just things you didn't think that were possible to take advantage of until you meet someone with way less. And that, yeah, that made me just forever, like I just wanted to serve that community since then. But so, and also, who is your inspiration?
So all of our ancestors is my inspiration. I think about like how hard this is sometimes now. And I think back to how slaves in the field had to have the hardships they endured. I think about the people who were snatched from their homes and forced to lay on a ship to come over here to do forced labor. So they are definitely my inspiration. But additionally, my dad, he has been instrumental in this, I guess, nurturing this boldness in me. I'm also a spiritual person, so I feel like this is a divine calling, that I did not choose the movement, but that the movement chose me. And there's a compelling deep within me to do this work, because my life would probably be better off if I didn't do this work, but I cannot let go of that drawing. And so I'm grateful for it, even though sometimes I'm not. But for the I feel like it's something special to be chosen. But I'm a nerd. I'm a proud nerd. I have been reading books like novels since 3rd grade. And so Zora Neale Hurston, I was reading her books at 3rd grade. I shouldn't have been based on some of the content, but I didn't know what I was reading at the time. But her books and the Ebonics and the broken English and just her soul came out of those books, and it inspired something. Like I say, I feel like I've been raised up to do this. So that was very inspiring for me. And then reading history and understanding that everything that we're told is not necessarily the truth. So I'm a truth seeker. I'm a truth speaker. And I really believe in holding people accountable, but also using my voice to speak for people who don't know how to speak or who are afraid to speak. So B.B. Moore Campbell, Zora Neale Hurston, James Baldwin, like all of those people, Ella Baker, she was a leader maker. And I believe that a true leader, is not, their success isn't determined by how many people follow them. Their success is determined by how many leaders they create or help empower or build. And so that's the core of who I am. I could be behind the scenes all day long, but I realize that people don't want to be in front. And so I will do that part too. But I want to be like Ella Baker and Fannie Lou Hamer and just speak truth to power, regardless of it has to happen, because if we don't do anything, we're guaranteed that nothing's going to change.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to develop leaders, and we're also trying to provide leaders and learners with this type of thing that we're doing now, so they will be more equipped to go out into the community, to go out and do their job. We had a class where we talked about like 18 different roles of organizers. And the important thing for that is for people to understand what their role is as an organizer and which role, they fit in. And a lot of people would think that they fit in a certain role when actually they could do better in another role. So that's what we're trying to do. And that sounds like what you're doing.
Listen, all organically. If you ask me the terms, I don't know the terms. I just
Well, we're gonna probably teach that class again, and we'll invite you in to help teach it.
That will let me know, because that sounds fascinating.
Yeah, because most of the people on here right now took the class, and these folks are definitely leaders.
Mm-hmm.
For
sure.
So.
Yeah.
Want to ask another question. Are you involved with the Citizens Coalition for Criminal Justice Reform?
Mm-hmm.
And can you tell us a little bit about that?
So that is the group that we named after after seeing after George Floyd died and was murdered, and I was too angry to go to the protest. Like, I literally wanted to go with my AR-15 across my shoulder. So I knew I couldn't go out there like that. So I was like, what can I do to make an impact? And with several of I think David Odom and Aaron McNally, and there was a couple other people. I had Chauncey McGlathery. There were several people that I kept reaching out to and saying, hey, I have this idea. What do you think about this? And what do you think about this? And I just kept refining it, and I would talk to more citizens, and then just kept refining it and talk to my board, like, can we do something like this? And that's where the Citizens Coalition, it was originally for criminal justice reform. We have since dropped the C and just become the Citizens Coalition for Justice Reform, was born. So June 4th, 2020. And there are a group of us who are leaders. There's about 7 or 8 of us. All of us are not front facing because some people want to protect their identity. All the leaders, we signed a non-disclosure agreement so that we can strategize, so we can protect the identity of the people who want to remain anonymous. And also so that when we come across information that may be confidential dealing with families who've been traumatized, that we can discuss that in an open forum and know that it won't leave our meetings. So when we, like I said, the perfect storm, unfortunate perfect storm happened with the tear gas and rubber bullets and the launching of that, to where when we created the group on social media, people poured into that site, that Facebook group. So we have over 2,100 people on the Facebook private group. We have about 150 volunteers who serve at some level. Some may serve once every 3 months, some serve every week, some serve 2 and 3 times a week. And so when we first started, we were intentional about keeping United Women of Color out of the marketing of Citizens Coalition, because there were all political parties that were interested in that, our gender, racist, like, so we didn't want that to be a hindrance, because sometimes when people think something is a Black thing or is a people of color thing, they can't hear the issues. So we did that intentionally. And it's been successful so far. So now we launched a public awareness campaign where we did some videos of different individuals, children, parents, and then people who have been impacted by police, but also some police officers who did videos about the differences in policing and that whole issue. So we ran them on cable television for 6 weeks in some of the local news, but we're about to launch them all on social media as well, and do kind of like a blitz campaign targeting certain groups as we continue to raise public awareness and make citizens, try to prompt citizens to get involved with this effort. So I hope I answered your question. We have a 5-year plan with the CCJR team to transform policing in this area, and then create a handbook so that other cities can follow our model, the successful pieces of our model.
Well, that sounds great. I'm sorry. Someone asking a question?
You.
Okay, I guess I'm getting feedback here, but anyway, I love to hear myself talk. So anyway, that'll work. Now, is this Citizens Coalition Justice, is that just for Huntsville? Or
We started in Huntsville. So the plan is Huntsville, Madison County Sheriff, Madison City. What we found out is when the UAH incident, like there are like 9 different police agencies within Madison County. So we were like, we're gonna have to take this to a regional level. So the plan is just to continue to expand as we build capacity.
Okay, well, yeah, and one of the reasons I'm asking is I'm involved with an organization called the Etowah Visitation Project, in which we visit, ICE detainees in Etowah. Of course, we haven't been able to do that, during COVID, but it looks like we're going to be able to reinstate that, we hope. And that's something would that be something that could be a part of this coalition? Because it is criminal.
We share, so BLM Huntsville, TVPA, Surge.
Yeah.
So the Dana Fletcher Foundation, the family of Crystal Ragland, we share all of their resources of like-minded organizations. We would not probably take on any kind of administrative type role with that, but we would support and promote. Like Project Say Something in Florence, for the most part, anti-racism. So we support them and partner with them on different things,
Okay.
but they always take the lead, and we just kind of try to provide bodies and whatever support we can.
Good. Fantastic. That's great. And what do you have to do to join? You know, like either organization? What are the requirements to do that?
So United Women of Color, which is the parent organization, is a 501c3. So anyone who believes in our mission can join us. And we have two ways to join. You can either donate $45 annually, or you can offer 8 hours of community service with the organization annually. And with that comes a t-shirt, it comes opportunities to lead projects, is opportunity to be connected with other individuals of different ethnicities, and just to support a good cause. So with the Citizens Coalition, the only thing we have is, do you believe that there needs to be, police reform as it relates to the brutalization of Black and Brown individuals and those with mental health issues? Have you read our 10 requests? Do you agree to support, do you live in the Madison County area? And we have people who are not in the Madison County area that are in the group, because we plan to expand. And then we ask that you take a constituent survey, and it's literally to help build political power in addition to the tension type building power with the local leaders. So we want to know what district you live in. Are you politically engaged, and things of that nature? Because eventually we'll be hopefully putting up candidates in conjunction with some of the other local community groups to make sure we have some people who are anti-racist running for office.
Okay.
So it's a pretty loose affiliation. If you like us,
Yeah, that's what we like. We like to be comfortable, and here in our fireside chats and in our classes, we keep it very, very comfortable, for anybody, can really ask a question at any time. And I know that is anyone here, or Courtney, anyone here have any questions? I'm sure there must be some
I was
out
gonna
there.
give everybody else a chance, because I always end up being the one who talks too much. So hold on.
I've got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are there openings that y'all have candidates prepared to run in? I know bigger, obviously bigger races, but are there any local elections coming up?
so 2022 city council seats in District 2, 3, and 4, and that's currently Francis Akridge, Jenny Robinson, who is the council president, and Bill Kling will be up for election, as well as school board seats as well. We've had 2 individuals to reach out to us to see if we could assist them with their campaign. So we're just kind of screening individuals to see as they approach us. We personally, just on a realistic time scale, we don't think that we'll be ready to move power like we want to move power until the 2024 election, and that will be with Mayor Tommy Battle, District 1, Devin Keith, and District 5, John Meredith. So we're kind of taking baby steps to make sure we have a solid foundation, but we're open to all of that. And as far as Congressional District 5 and all those kind of things, we looked at it, but we know that that's even further down the road. So we haven't really seriously looked at, other than talking to people who want to run as independent, to see what the likelihood of them gathering some votes to build a platform.
So I guess my question is a little bit related to progress so far. So given you have kind of a 10-point kind of action plan, things that you'd like to see done, obviously I'm sure you're just getting infinite pushback, right, from the powers that be, right? You present, no matter how reasonable any of them are, they're just going to say no to all of them. So are there any of the 10 points that you are currently, one, just like really hammering down on because you feel like there's some kind of opening? It's like, well, 1 through 9, this is just like, it's not going to happen until we can get like every single person on the board replaced. But 10, ooh, number 10, I think we can kind of weasel our way into number 10. So is there one of those? And 2, like, you talk a lot about like reform, right? As somebody who's kind of pushes a little bit more on the abolition front, because here in Albuquerque, I don't know if y'all keep up with the news on it. Albuquerque is per capita the most violent police force in America, right? We actually murder, our police murder more people than they do in like LA or New York or anywhere else. And it's almost overwhelmingly people who are homeless or have mental health crises. And so like we've just abandoned the entire reform platform. I think they were trying to do something like that, like a 10 or a 12-point reform thing. And they just, like, after the last one, we had spent, I think it was like 6 years under the watch of the DOJ. And then 2 weeks after the DOJ left town, within 36 hours, APD had shot 2 different people having mental health crises. And so like everybody here has just gone straight for abolishment. Where are you on that front as well? So I guess that kind of 2 parts, like what is, like, is there one reform you think you can hammer out, and where are you on abolishment?
So I'll start with the progress, which we knew, like I said, we knew this was not going to be a short fix or a quick fix. So we have a 5-year plan that we continue to revisit. But so we have the 10 requests. I don't know if you guys know that the NAACP then came with their list of 10 demands, and a joint effort of the 100 Black men and the National Coalition of 100 Black Women presented the 8 Can't Wait requests. So the city took all of those requests. They created this. One, they did a presentation to show what all the police, to me, just showed their power, their military toys. And then they presented a 73-page report in response to all of those organizations' requests. So it was a 13-page actual response, and then the other 60 pages were like what do you call it, addendum, and it had different stuff that may or may not have been relevant. But our number one request was that they put the policies online, because our conversation was, how can you expect people to follow policies if you don't have the policies out there? The officers should know what should happen, and the citizens should know what should happen. Now, we already know that the officers aren't following the policy, especially depending on what color you are. When they come up to my car, they say license and registration. When they go up, the policy says, but when they go up to a white person's car, hello, ma'am, sir, I'm Officer so-and-so, and I stopped you because. We know that that's not happening. We know that there aren't any consequences when they just come to my car, don't follow policy, even if I file a complaint. So we took a intentional, logical, objective, non-threatening approach, but yet we're still seen as these, we want to defund the police and kill all the police officers and throw them in jail. So because of that, we know that just looking at the policies isn't going to change anything, that we have to change people, we have to change the culture, and we have to hold officers who don't follow the law or policies accountable. And with that is going to come, we need transparency, we need access. So there's a whole lot of layers that go with that. Sure. So number one, they're putting the policies online. The next thing that crime mapping, the HPD already has the crime mapping app and all that stuff. They just won't flip the switch. And then with us asking, it makes them not want to flip the switch even more. And then there's the Huntsville Police Citizen Advisory Council, which is literally a rubber stamp feel-good organization for, I guess, HPD or for the city to say they had done something related to citizens. So Francis Akridge wrote a resolution to kind of restructure that group. So that's similar to one of our requests, but we literally want a review board convened And we found out that that's probably need a state law to happen. And because of all the, we don't have home rule because of our white supremacist constitution. So that may require a state law prior to us having to push for that. So we've been working with state legislator Laura Hall. She has a draft of a bill to speak to the whole citizen review board with subpoena power. So what we also learned is that mental health calls were huge. I mean, not just in our area, but so that wasn't on our list, but we began to push for it. Body cam footage being transparent is number 9 on our list. John Meredith put forth, he is now on tabled because the city. So this is what we find. The things that we come to city council and talk about, the things that we push for, they just mysteriously happen to always be working on these things, but they never announce that they're working on them until after we bring them up. So as it relates to behavioral health calls and having an alternative to police response, there's some sort of pilot project in the making, but no one's clear as to what that is.
I'm sure there's not one. Yeah.
They gave a presentation, but there wasn't clarity. And we spoke with Jenny Robinson about this week. They talked about a mobile response unit and they talked about a behavioral response unit. And so we're like, are these 2 different programs? Like, you guys need to start putting stuff in writing and presenting it, because you're presenting to the lay person who's not into politics. So she took note of all that. Hamilton gets up and does a song and dance to try to make it seem like they're responding to us. So we have been able to apply that pressure. Like, had we not applied pressure, they never would have done a protest review. So out of that protest review, there's some litigation for lawsuits because Columbus, Ohio had a lawsuit against them, and they had less information than the Huntsville Police Department protest action review has in it. So we are seeking to try to get funding for litigation or either a partnership with ACLU so that we can look into some of those things, because there were civil rights violations that occurred.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so with that, that's the progress piece. You defund and all that. So we know that we're in Bull Connor 2.0 of this city and also our state. So even though we know that we have to, divert funds to other programs, we don't speak on it publicly because it's such a polarizing issue. So we've gone from saying, we say reform, but we know we need to transform policing. So that's literally tearing it down and building it back up. So instead of saying abolition, we say transform.
Okay.
Most people don't know what that means, but if you look up the definition of transform, it's tearing a thing down and building it back up. So we speak to that.
No, okay. That I like that. That makes sense. It definitely seems like you all have functioning strategy, and you've taken into account some of those things. I think here, at least for us, we've just kind of realized that, like, in a similar sense where our mayor, anytime there's like a police shooting and like there's a protest, he immediately just like assigns another few $1 million to the cops for more guns, right? So it's like they're very blatant and very aggressively being like, we don't care. So we're just like, if you're not gonna, there's no value in us playing or like beating around the bush here.
Didn't they get rid of qualified immunity in New Mexico?
In New Mexico, yes, just recently. Which has caused a little bit more police brutality at some of the protests. But the nice thing is you would think it's like you guys would want to tone down on that now that we could sue you for your pensions. But they're just like it's you see it all across the country. They're so aggressive and they're so brutal, and they thrive on the suffering of people under them.
It's white rage, like Carolyn, is it Dr. Carol Anderson? She did from Emory. She did a book that's about white rage, and it talks about the backlash of progress of people of color and things and significant events that benefit the poor and people of color and indigenous people. So I think it's just white rage totally on display,
Yeah. And it's fully supported by the system, right? Like the mayor is gonna just like in Huntsville, the mayor is gonna stand out in front of City Hall and cheer it on, right? And very comfortable, well-meaning white people are going to stand out in front of City Hall and kind of cheer it on because like they've never had to experience negative interactions with the police, so they don't have like any concept of like how that works for other people. I remember Courtney and I had set up a thing where they have Huntsville police has the like it's like a homeless action committee. I don't know if Courtney, if you remember that, we had this sit down lunch with that guy and then another gentleman who's worked with a few things on us and I mean and like everything that guy said was just like all these kind of like really nice platitudes, but it's like I know fully well you're not going to do any of these things, right? Like, you know, it's like we had conversations. It's like, do you know what all the city ordinances are as far as like, and how often do your cops know those? And he's like, nah, nobody knows. There's no way to know them. There's hundreds of them, thousands of them. They're obscure. It's dumb, you know. And it's like, so you just like one day just decide to show up to a homeless camp, just kind of like beat everybody up, steal their stuff, and then you know like. I there's bound to be something illegal, right? And so we'll find it later. So
and the crazy thing about that is property crime is going up in Huntsville over the years. It's just been increasing, and so we spend so much money on the crime that you know talking about murder and all of those things, but property crime is like 10 times what violent crimes are. But our focus but we understand that due to white supremacy, the police state was created to oppress and brutalize people as a method of keeping them under control. So we're not blind to that. And so we can't expect them to actually care. So that's why we want citizens to be involved and why we keep pushing for a relationship with the community, because the community is not going to say we want the police to beat our ass because somebody broke into my house like that. So if we had the community at the table, we can get more humane policing as we transform the process. That's
sure. And so kind of part of like, so my lead up there, especially talking about like the homeless situation is prior to a fundraiser, I'd done like a short kind of, let's call it a micro documentary. It's like 10 minutes long, where I went out and into the community and I talked with a bunch of different people inside some of the different camps about their experiences. And when I was talking to one woman, this was a Black woman who was living near First Stop, but over like kind of right behind where the police station is over there. She was talking about her story, and one of the things, this is the reason why she's in that particular camp, is that the police will basically grab certain people who are homeless and they'll move them into a camp and they'll make this agreement with them that says, hey, if you kind of take on like the mayor of this camp, right, and you ensure that everybody's cleaning up after themselves and that nobody's like doing illicit drugs or whatever the case is, and you just basically manage all these people, we'll cut you like kind of a small salary, like we'll slip some funding to you, we'll take good care of you, like yada yada yada. And then they just don't, right? So what they're doing is they're just like basically bribing people to come in and babysit, and then like neglecting them, and then like in her case, like if she speaks out, like then cops show up, kind of smash all of her like tent up and, you know, beat her. So is there like potentially a push, especially with y'all, to involve the homeless community and some of the problems that they're experiencing inside of that justice reform?
We do have there's a group, Vote Huntsville has really taken I want to say to heart the homeless situation. We have not gone to that level, to that deep depth of it. We kind of just still been dealing with people traumatized by encounters with the law enforcement from either in their vehicles or at their homes or what have you. So that is something that we're open to explore, because like with the behavioral health response, that wasn't on our list of 10, but it quickly became, as the data became available and they shared, like with the number of police suicides and the number of behavioral health calls they get every year, the number of suicide calls they get, like, why are we not working on this? So, you know, we brought that in and thought, well, we have the power to keep bringing this up to kind of push them to do something about it.
Sure.
We're supposed, Jenny Robinson is supposed to be facilitating a meeting with CCJR and Jeremy Blair from the mental health Wellstone.
Sure.
So that's going to be interesting, because we were there's little to no trust there. So we wonder what that's going to be like. But we are being able to expand our reach as far as connecting with, I would say, power brokers in the community. And they're not, so the perception is that CCJR is just a group of mad people who got shot with tear gas and rubber bullets. And then when people have conversation with us, they realize, holy crap, these people have so much data. I don't even know, we're data driven, we're story driven, we're fact driven, and they don't know how to respond to that. So it's
and that's super powerful. I mean, the data is really what speaks numbers, and especially in a city like Huntsville, where everybody wants to utilize the kind of the onus of data as like I don't have to talk to you because there's no way you're going to have the statistics on blah, blah, blah. So shut up. Right. But then when you drop, 30 pages and you're just like, actually, here's, get you. And so like now there's nothing they can do except like work on it. But I was saying that because it does seem like, as from an organizational standpoint, and this is something I think NASA should absolutely be helping with for all the people in that Huntsville area, is as you start to look towards that push for putting people on city council, getting rid of the mayor, doing these types of things. I think there is a large enough block that if you can go into these homeless communities and just be like, hey, you wanna come vote on this thing to get the cops to stop like stealing your shit. And then all of a sudden it's like, now all of a sudden, they're, and that's the thing, you can easily move in silence, right? Because like they're just such a neglected part of the community there. But there's I think the last time I had talked to somebody, there's like 15 to 17,000 people that the city knows about who are currently homeless. And so it's like all of a sudden, it's like when the things like a mayor race is won 6,800 to 6,700, all of a sudden it's like 15,000 people show up to the polls and put all of your folks in. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, whoops, we should have probably done a little more for that community. And so it gives you like that kind of like upper edge, right? If you're going to do electoralism, I think like hammering on those things would just be that suggestion there.
And we will start canvassing, and so that will be a component that we'll definitely add, because we had not thought that deep, but that's ingenious. That's great.
Hey, Angela, I have a question. I don't know if it's a question. It's stories about my interaction and working with the police recently that I think you'll find both amusing and disheartening. So I am in the Human Relations Commission, and a lot of people don't know that there even is, the city of Huntsville has a Human Relation Commission, and we're supposed to take complaints and also like work on issues, facilitate the resolution of issues in like in areas of equality, in areas of justice and social justice. And so really the only complaint that we've gotten in the last couple of months is from a lady who was, lives downtown and said she was scared to leave because of the protests, which is nuts. But then also she was upset about the monument being moved. So that was the complaint that was issued to the Human Relations Commission. So not a lot of people know about this, and what we're gonna have to do is spread the word. They want to kind of to rehabilitate it because it hasn't been so active in the past few years, but they see a need for it becoming more active. So there are some.
Listen, we'll send them some stuff. They were lame duck. So we never, it's like, what's the point? Like even with the CAC, where are your minutes? Where are you? What do you do? Like that, and they still haven't produced. So we'll definitely send them some things y'all's way. So
good. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
It's a real problem, actually, just the organization, but I think they're trying to turn it around, and they have several police officers in the group. And so we were talking to the officers in our last meeting, and it was the day after the Rosa Parks committee had the protest downtown where we marched to the park. Well, the moderator of the Human Relations Commission asked the officers in the group, what are you guys going to do to make sure that June 1st and June 3rd doesn't happen again? What are y'all going to do to make sure there aren't snipers up on the roof pointing rifles at people, that type, and shooting people with rubber bullets? So one of the officers in the group, he said, we have much better communication now, and we are going to make sure that the protest that's going on tonight that we're not going to have those types of issues. And I said, what protest is going on tonight? And he described it. And I said, that was the protest that happened last night. That already happened. So it was kind of sad that he was talking about how good the communication is, and he thought that the protest was still yet to happen when it had already happened. So that was number one. But the number two thing was the moderator asked another question about if we have a problem in policing here in Huntsville. And so I said, yeah. So what I mentioned was that the study by Alabama Appleseed that showed that you are 11 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana if you're Black in Huntsville than if you're white. And that is much high, and that is in spite of usage rates being the same across the board. And that's if you look at the map of where the arrests are taking place, you'll see that they're all in the north side, and the people on the north are being targeted and harassed. And so and that's much higher than the rest of the country's average of like 3 to 1, and higher than the rest of the state's average. Even like we have the highest in the state, which is messed up, the highest like demonstrably racist policing in the state, which is a lot. So I mentioned that, and I even sent the link to the Alabama Appleseed study. And the first officer said to me, he said, we're not doing anything any different on the north side than we are on the south side. But that's exactly what the data disproves, like this is what the data is saying is happening. But just flat out denial from the first guy. From the second guy, who was the one who was talking about the communication being so much better. He said that he thinks that the most important thing that they do is make sure that people aren't using marijuana because now there is fentanyl in marijuana. And I said, you're finding fentanyl in marijuana here in Huntsville? And he said, just because it doesn't happen doesn't mean it can't.
That's the same. That was their same response to the protest. It's just to me, it's just Jim Crow and Bull Connor 2.0, because they know they have the support to do that. And
Yeah.
Captain Rice is over the Special Operations Division now. So that's part of the reason that we didn't have with the George Floyd March, that we did not have like a hostile response, I believe, because he has taken it on like he's going to be the peacemaker. Because there was an event with Reclaim Our Time and BLM during Panoply and Project Say Something, and he was the same way there. Even though they had somebody to try to approach them, they ended up arresting that guy. So
yeah,
I think
I was there. That was crazy.
Yep. So at the George Floyd March, they literally had the nicest police officers I think I had ever seen. I said to him at the end, like, why can't all police officers be this way? Like, you guys need to send them through this division if this is the only division that have decent officers. And he just kind of looked at me. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Janisha Pegues, in the officer who responded first to Jeffrey Parker, she is an example of I guess if you could say a good cop, because not just if she did the right thing in the moment, but she did the right thing till the end. And she's not a cop anymore, so all cops are bastards because she's not a cop. Yeah. So like,
and unfortunately,
you can't keep
the
the good
mayor
ones.
Still speaks negatively in regards to her actions, even up to that Rosa Parks. The Rosa Parks committee met with him prior to doing their first public statement, and he still was talking against it. So the good officers that are in HPD are at risk because they're not following this whole Jim Crow model, unfortunately. So we're losing good officers to that as well.
If you want a silver lining, I guess, I think, Catherine, you said it was like 11 to 1 on marijuana arrests. I remember right before we moved, I was at a TVPA meeting, and we had somebody, I forget what the org they were with. They were out of Birmingham, and they came up and they had done a presentation. They'd collected all of this data, and it was from like 2017. And at that time, it was 17 to 1. So, hey, wow. I guess they're getting better, right? So, like,
wow.
I mean, there's just, it's an absolute nightmare. And it is a huge thing that you can absolutely kind of see in real time, especially because like when you look, a lot of those homeless camps and communities, they all sit, because I lived right next to UAH, right? I lived over off of Holmes. and what was that other street? It's the one that Sitar, the restaurant's on.
Jordan.
Jordan. Yeah. So I was living off of Holmes in Jordan. And so if you went down the street just a little ways, you know, you have the a couple of the different camps over there. But I mean, it's all of that area and Clinton and everything else. That's where they stick all of the police stations, right? Like they are literally just going into the, you know, overwhelmingly Black communities and being like, oh, well, you know, this neighborhood here has more than 6 houses with a Black resident. Time to put in a police station, right? So it's I mean, I think if you're going to talk about like reforms, I mean, maybe moving those out, like, hey, like what if instead of building some more over here, you built your next like 8 or 10 over in what is it, Whitesburg, and then see if you like, if that's like, yeah, build as many police stations as you want, as long as you're building them in Whitesburg, and then see if they keep building them, right? See if like you can kind of like be like, hey, yeah, we're going to support you like unilaterally if you can do it in this way, and then watch them really just kind of yank the mask off to some degree and say, oh, no, we're not going to police white neighborhoods, you know, and but you like getting them to kind of say that out loud, I think is going to be the only way you're going to make unfortunately any progress with HPD.
Angela, am I imagining this?
We're going to have to do some corporate activism, and some civil litigation is going to have to come forward, or else we're just going to keep spinning our wheels in the mud. So those two things have got to happen.
You'll keep running into those cases like,
I was going to ask, am I imagining this? Did the police recently, they released some type of document about their training, like in response to your requests? Didn't they release information about how they were training their officers? Or because I'm curious if you know, if what Ben Darby did is within training, and what if shooting, you know, Bradley Pugh 16 times is within training, then what is the training? I'm curious, like how they justify that in these documents.
And I don't recall that they laid out the names of the trainings, because that was a question that we followed up with. But Captain McCarver, you know, he testified on the stand. He was a training officer, captain at the time, that that Darby followed policy. He testified to that. So according to their policy, is just shoot to kill.
Run in and scream and shoot somebody in the face.
Right.
Damn.
Yeah, and a lot of times, you don't realize that they make money off of crime.
Right.
You know, the police department makes a lot of money off of crime, or tickets, or whatever. And I know that, you know, in Chicago, when I was there in the 60s and 70s, they had a quota as to how many people they would have to arrest and charge with a crime, because the city would, you know, use those statistics to get more money from the state and federal government, you know, and so they won't crime, as far as I'm concerned.
I've talked to a few people who used to be police officers, and I had a friend back in Utah, and we had talked about that because at one point I was mentioning like quotas and was arguing with somebody because they didn't believe that was the case. But he had actually mentioned what they do nowadays is they don't do quotas, but what they do is the way that they incentivize you throughout your job basically builds a quota, right? So the person who has the most tickets and the most arrests, things like that at the end of the month, gets first choice of shift going into the next month. They get potential bonus options. They get like they have blackout days for like holidays or time off or PTO or whatever, and it's like, or vacations, and so it's like they get kind of first choice on those things depending on. So what they're doing is they're using, it's like, hey, if you want to get time off, if you want to see your family, right, like you don't want to be stuck on third shift, you want the good shifts, you want the good things, you got to go out and like arrest a bunch of people and, you know, find kids smoking weed, or you got to go out and write tickets, right? And so they're finding different ways to incentivize that way. When somebody's like, you got a quota, they can be like, we don't have a quota, and they can kind of just be like, not us. And it's all kind of a gimmick, right? That it's similar, like you know, somebody had mentioned the statue situation, where I remember we were trying to fight to get the statue removed, and the city said it was the county says it's the city, and they do this thing where they just kind of roll you around. You had mentioned trying to work against like the county sheriffs. Do you foresee that being literally the same problem as like the statue removal, where they're just gonna just be like, oh, that's a city problem, don't talk to us, and then when you go to the city, they're like, that's a county problem? Like, is that?
So we know that the sheriff kill people. Like they
Yeah, yeah.
literally were under FBI investigation because a guy was speaking up about the corruption that the FBI found related to backlash during a bar fight, and then the one guy ended up dead. So we are personally and individually aware that when we go up against Madison County sheriffs, like even though we may be under threat now and some people have been followed, like we're literally gonna have our life on the line because of the corruption and the depth of the corruption in that system. So we are really working to get our, I want to say, our legs and our infrastructure up under us so that when we go against them, that we will stand a chance, if that makes sense. But yeah, they're going to be horrible, but we definitely have to go with them with lawsuits out the gate.
Yeah.
That's the only leverage we're going to have with them in trying to get somebody to run for sheriff. But in Madison County, there's only been one Black countywide elected individual outside of the Republican Judge Hundley, and that was Judge Lynn Sherrod. I mean, and so we have some work to do to engage voters and to engage the Black population and the liberal population to work together to get people in these seats that can make change. So that's an ongoing task because we're very territorial here in Madison County because we all want to look good, you know.
Yeah. And I think aggressively vetting them for policy too, right? You don't want to end up in a Woodfin situation, right? Where, you know, you elect somebody because they say all the right things and they just like, you know, they speak real nice and it's just like, and then, you know, the liberals jump in aboard the identity politics portion of it. And then all of a sudden you get somebody who's just as awful as like literally, and you might as well have just been like Kay Ivey or any other kind of Republican down there. And so that's been a huge problem for them. And so, what is the plan? Because I know you'd mentioned going after Frances Akridge's seat, right? Because obviously she ran as a super progressive who was going to do all these nice and that, you know, obviously didn't work out. So what is the plan? I guess like as your vetting process looks like for.
So what needs to happen? So Angela has kind of got her hand in several different pots. So as a part of the whole trying to bring people together. So I'm on the Rosa Parks committee. So I like help with them strategizing and gathering people and trying to bring people together. And then some of those members are on the NACHUA, which is this North Huntsville Citizens United for Action, which is basically like all the Black pastors. And then you have another Black pastors group. So we are literally trying to get all of these different groups to agree that we need an agenda, like we need a slate, and this slate needs to be objective, based like, are you anti-racist? Show me your track record. Like we need to come up with some objective things so that when people come to us seeking support, we all have that list and we pull it out. So that's kind of like herding wet cats. But we figure if we keep working at it, eventually we'll get to a place where we could at least come up with one or two things that we all can ask and hold candidates to. So I mentioned Francis and all of them. We don't have anybody. We have sects of people who want Francis gone. We have people who are okay with nobody really likes how Francis moves. But for me, from an objective standpoint, Francis is the only, and this is so weird, council person that has put pen to paper as it relates to reform. So as much as we want to think that, you know, I'm just going to say Devin Keith or John, like until they put pen to paper, they're just talking because they know that it takes a resolution or an ordinance or something written to get anything done. So I don't know if Frances is going to keep her seat because she's riding that fit and she falls over it every time because she's trying to, that area that as far as voting is conservative, elderly, white. Mm-hmm. But she has a progressive pocket of people that literally voted her in. So I don't know if she's going to survive, but I don't know of any candidates that are running against her.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, even with Bill Kling. So Bill Kling knows that he's on the chopping block. So Bill Kling has been doing all he can to make sure we're not mad at him. And he's speaking and talking about things. But until, again, he puts that pen to paper, he's vulnerable.
I mean, he's been on the chopping block for like a decade, right? I mean, like he's always on the chopping block, but
37 years. Yeah. He's
Yeah,
been
like-
on, I think he's been on the council for like 30 plus years.
yeah, I mean that guy's probably been on since the day he got into office. But it's like, it's like getting. I remember how much a push, because I know so many people who worked up towards that acreage campaign, and like how much effort it took to just like get somebody who like was labeled a progressive like elected. Because I remember getting mailers in where they were using that Goosebumps like book font that said socialism on it. It was like all these like goofy fear taxes, but these things were like painfully effective in a place like Alabama. And so I guess
I have to disclose that I helped Frances on her campaign. I was her social media, and I kind of helped with strategy, because I looked at Mary Jane Kaler and I was like, yeah, no, I'm not saying Mary Jane is a bad person, but she's beyond her prime. So we didn't need her in office. But with that said, I don't think that we owe Frances. I think we owe the citizens to have representation that's going to represent how we want them to represent, even if they don't agree with it. They're there to represent the people. And I think we've forgotten that somewhere.
Angela, I see that, I see Courtney's got a question.
Go ahead, Courtney. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. That's why I only raised my hand. I didn't want to interject because you're awesome. And I love to hear you speak. So I wanted to say something about, so we did 2 different types of meetings with police officers. The other one that Donald was talking about was different from the resolution meeting. So that and so he was nice enough to be out of uniform and talk with us, honestly. And so he said that, it's a personal problem. So what do? You can't change someone who is not honest, and especially when it's a group of people. And so he gave so much great insight, because that's who we needed to talk to, was at least an honest police officer who is boots on the ground, knows the system, knows, he works there, he knows the ins and outs of it. And so that was so insightful, and I was grateful for him. And then we kind of kept that his name protected and everything like that too. But we did come up with 4 goals. 2 of them are met. So we did, knowing well that because it is personal issues within HPD, we cannot talk with them. It's like being in a bad relationship. I mean, it's almost like you got to leave and protect yourself at that point. And so we decided educate on the citizens on how to prevent marijuana arrests, which we've done that flyer with Solo Monk. I just released it like a few days ago. And then the other one was, I have terrible memory. I'm sorry. And it's not because I smoke. I'm serious when I tell you that. Gosh, I wish I could remember, but I posted it on Instagram. So we have 2. And then, of course, the leadership and diversity within HPD was another one that we did not get to, but we tried to start on it. But it was like one thing after another with the headlines. Like they were still in denial. What happened with the Darby case? I mean, those are some real deep personal issues. It's like, you can't talk to people through that. You got to leave and protect yourself in any type of way. So, so we did we did accomplish 2 of those goals. And so it was, we had the site for, getting a representative to represent you if you needed a lawyer, like who to contact and what to do, sight, smell, suspect, so it was because of that conversation with him, it changed everything going forward. And that was, anyways, I just wanted to say that.
Real quick, I checked your
want- if you
Instagram,
could-
and it
share
says access to funding for mental health care was your other one that you checked off.
Yes, thank you.
yes,
That's
yes,
very
yes,
important.
yes.
That Blues to Bluegrass, that's what we're doing that through, and we're doing a fundraiser with Little Orange Fish. So that's our second music for mental health benefit that we've done through Blues to Bluegrass with High.
Cool. Do you want to come to that meeting with Jeremy Blair?
Is it through the North Alabama Mental Health Coalition?
He's the CEO, I guess, or president of Wellstone.
Yeah.
And so he's supposed to be integral with the whole behavioral health response. So we're supposed to be talking to him, gaining his insight, and sharing the data that we have to kind of see where he is as far as, does he see things the way we see it? Do we need to, what do we need to learn? What does he need to learn, kind of thing?
I would like
Oh
to
yeah. If I could, like I'm getting married on the 4th, and then we'll be gone the 20th. So if it's not within that, like I'll check my schedule and just, I can text you and get that if you don't mind, if I scooch in. Okay, thank you for letting me know that.
Hey, Angela, I would also possibly like to go to that. I used to work with him at the mental health center. When it was a mental health center.
Good. Okay,
And,
cool. Yes.
Yeah, I think starting a huge case management program is one of the things that we need.
Yes. Yes, I agree. We have to push for the funding, and that's where we were kind of talking with Jenny, like, at what point does the city, we know you're supposed to do roads and all that kind of stuff, but at what point does the city prioritize these other things that are, affecting all the other different areas of the, to include the economy? So she didn't really have an answer for that, but we
Gotta
wanted
take it
to
out of the
pose the
police
question.
budgets.
Right.
Well, it's getting late, guys. And it's been fantastic. Unless you want to continue, we've gone over our time, but we can still stay and talk and ask questions. We're not running anybody off here.
Hey, flick the light. It's time to
Last call.
It's beer 30 time.
Thank you so much, Angela.
You're welcome. Like I say, any questions, y'all can inbox us or email me, theunitedwoc@gmail.com. You can ask us in the group if you're in the group, if you're not in the Citizens Coalition group. Send me something and I'll invite you to get in there, because it is a private group. And I'm just grateful to be able to talk about this with you guys. I'm preaching to the choir though, but it's good to do that sometimes.
Well, a lot of people listen to the choir, so
Yeah.
I think that's very important. And just want to thank you so much, for doing this. And we want to get you back here again, you and others, and maybe we can, let us know what we can do. We want to be more of an action group too, other than just, other than just educational. We are also we're going national, and we're working with a University of the Poor and a lot of other organizations, and also assisting in building a new Rainbow Coalition,
Oh, good.
which is going to be just a exciting program, exciting coalition with all these new folks coming up, new people coming up in the, the Young Lords, the Black Panthers, the Brown Berets, you know, you got the White Panthers and AIM, American Indian Movement, and several others. So I think you'll be hearing from that soon. And maybe we can do some joint programs here together, which would be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I would love to hear you all's take on why do you think the George Floyd crime, what is it, a crime bill, whatever, policing act has been passed.
Okay, that's a project you gave us. So you got here and gave us, you get here and you give us an assignment.
Yep. You gotta. So what you do is you take like they were in places like Kenosha and up in Wisconsin. You start firing rockets into the like the bottle rockets into the windows, and then when the whole place is burnt to the ground, you solve problems. It's fine. It's fine. It's how we fix policing in America.
Yeah. Great.
All right. Love you, bud. I gotta run.
Okay,
Bye,
folks.
everybody.
Thank you, Angela. I appreciate
All
your
power,
time.
all power to
Thank
all
you,
people.
Angela.
Thank you, Angela.
Bye, y'all.
Fireside Chats is a production of North Alabama School for Organizers. NASO seeks to empower communities through intersectional education and training. More information, including upcoming classes, at naso.network. Thank you for joining us for Fireside Chats.